right, thanks for having me. My name is Ian Hudson. I am a member of the Metlakatla Indian community and currently work as the green crab project coordinator and fisheries biologist for the Department of Fish and Wildlife. I work alongside Dustin Winter, who is the department director, as well as Janelle Winter, who's our invasive species director, and Nicole Reynolds, who's been helping us with our data collection. And we are kind of on the leading edge in the state of Alaska for European green crab invasion. So this is just a little bit of background of where we're located in the state. We are the only native reserve in the state of Alaska, which gives us a very unique opportunity to manage our resources, both terrestrial and out to a 3,000-foot maritime boundary. We have roughly 1,500 community members, and we are just a short 15-mile boat ride from Ketchikan, which is the largest town in our area. So European green crabs are one of the top global invaders in marine environments. They've been on the east coast of the United States since the 1800s. And were transported, people think, through seafood trade to the West Coast in the late 80s. And they have slowly been creeping up the coast since then. In 2020, they were found on Haida just west of Skidegate, which is roughly 130 miles from where we're located on Annette Island. And our first detection was in 2022 when a live green crab specimen was found. These are highly aggressive crab species that can tolerate a large range of environmental conditions from salinity to temperature. And our biggest concern on our island is the impacts to subsistence harvest with shellfish species, as well as the native crabs such as Dungeness and red rock. They have the potential to decimate eelgrass beds. And so our largest concern is what it's going to do to a subsistence way of life. They're known to eat up to, I think, 40 half-inch clams per day. And so they have a large appetite and they're very resilient. This is just kind of our monitoring timeline in a nutshell. In 2020, through Pacific States Marine Fisheries Commission, we received funds through NOAA. And this gave us the ability to start building up some supplies that we needed in order to start monitoring. Moving forward to 2021, after the news of Haida finding live crabs, we began monitoring using eDNA as well as prospect traps. We received funding from BIA to continue doing more and more monitoring work. In 2022, this is when all the fun started and the first live crab was found on island. And since then, it's just been continued efforts. 2024, last summer, resulted in detections that our department found off of Annette Islands Reserve, which was the first time these were detected anywhere else in the state of Alaska. We received more funding from NOAA to continue to monitor and attempt to eradicate. So the methods that we have been using consists of kind of preliminary surveys. These moat walks are something easy. They don't require a ton of extra equipment. You basically walk on the rack line, which is where kind of all the debris builds up on the upper ends of the beach. And this allows us to look for crab carapace, crab molts, and identify what is currently in that area. We also use eDNA sampling. We've done this around the island, and this gives us kind of also a presence, non-presence detection to see if European green crabs might be present in the area. If one of these two methods confirms the presence, we begin prospect trapping, where we deploy 20-ish traps. We monitor them every day. We record everything that is in the traps, including bycatch, just to create some sort of baseline data for each area that we're looking at. And if we find a green crab, we then kind of go into full-on removal trapping, where we have permanently deployed traps, typically 30 or more in each area that we find these. And every single day, these are checked, rebaited, and for disposal, we take them, freeze them, and then we collect some data from them, and then we bring them to the community garden to compost. We've also been saving some for educational outreach, where we can put them in like an epoxy, or just save the carapace to give to people to help with identification education. So in 2021, this was post-COVID. Sampling was kind of put on hold until things settled down with that. But this year, this is 1 year after the detection in Haida Gwaii. There were 66 different eDNA samples sent off to the Army Corps of Engineers lab, and these all resulted in no confirmation. And so this initial survey in 2021 also included several areas south of Annette Island, on Duke, and those also came up as negative. So to this point, there hadn't been anything found. In 2022, this is almost exactly 2 years after Haida Gwaii found their first live crab. We trapped the first live one on the 26th. And this came after a molt survey identified a green crab carapace on the 19th of July. And these were both in very similar areas. Once the carapace was found, it was kind of like a, holy smokes, they're here. We need to start trapping. And what's interesting about this year is that the ratio of males to females was almost 1 to 1. And that data kind of changes over the years, which you'll see, but it's just, I don't know, we don't exactly know what it means, but most of these crabs were all concentrated into Tamgus Bay, which is, to our community, one of the largest subsistence harvest areas for all kinds of shellfish. In 2023, efforts continued. I think the awareness of green crab started to increase around southern Southeast Alaska. And so there was a European green crab workshop that happened. And this allowed stakeholders from various different communities all a chance to come to Annette Island and get hands-on trapping experience, and just to see what the efforts were being put forth by our department. And in 2023, the male to female ratio was 2 to 1. So there was twice as many females this year as the previous year. So also in 2023, with the help of Carolyn Teepolt at Woods Hole, we saved some DNA samples from the crabs that we had been catching on our island. And the results showed that these are likely multiple age classes and also from multiple genetic populations. And so these graphs are kind of a little bit complicated to look at, but Carolyn says that these crabs on Annette Island have either come from British Columbia by way of Haida Gwaii, Vancouver Island, and also the state of Washington. And so we could be developing a crab that is more tolerant to the colder conditions in Alaska, and the possibility to keep spreading north. Last year in 2024, I started this position in June, and so this was my first year, summer on the job, checking traps. It's a lot of work. From June 21st to the end of September, we checked nearly 5,000 traps, used 3,500 pounds of bait, which was all herring mostly, and these were the results. And what this shows is that, I'll talk about a new area, which is the salt chuck, in a second. But from the areas that we trapped the previous 2 years, we saw a 75% reduction in total crab caught, which to us is showing a positive sign that our removal efforts are working. Um, Also, this male to female ratio was kind of in between the first 2 years. And so this number keeps bouncing around depending on the year. So on June 13th, a team from Alaska Sea Grant with Ginny Eckert, she brought some student interns as well as some interns from Metlakatla High School, and we did a joint effort to do malt walk surveys on Gravina Island, which is just northwest of Annette Island. And our first stop was Bostwick Inlet, which is another important subsistence use area for not only Annette Island, but also Ketchikan communities. And this was the first detection. We found 13 carapace of European green crab on the first day. And so that resulted in our department using our aquatic research permit to deploy traps in Bostwick Inlet to see if we could detect live European green crabs. And in a 2 day period, over the course of a week, we caught green crabs on consecutive days, which then resulted in a rapid response effort by the state of Alaska, where they did trapping on two separate occasions to see what else was in there. Also, later in the summer, in September, we have a salt chuck that is on the southwestern portion of the island. It has a very narrow inlet, but it is also south facing. What we found is that south facing inlets are the ones that are going to be most prone to um, uh, receiving green crabs in the larval stage. And so doing a routine molt walk, we found several carapace. And so we went in to deploy some traps. And while we were walking into the salt chuck to put these traps in, we noticed that there was hundreds of very, very young European green crab. And so this resulted in a pretty much a blitz from our department where we sent everyone out. We all put on waders and we started hand picking green crabs from the salt chuck. Within a week and a half period, we removed nearly 1,000 by hand, and this seemed to be the most effective method. The smaller crabs are more weary of traps, is what we have concluded, and so the best way to remove these was by hand picking. And this resulted in some positive results where we went from catching over 100 crabs per day to less than 20 in the same time period. So this showed that the efforts were working, but this also added 75% to our total catch for the year. So they were all concentrated in this small area. One thing that we looked at from doing some primary research, we started keeping track of the color. The name European green crab can be kind of misleading because they can be orange, they can be yellow. They have very high amounts of variation in color. And what we found is that the ones that are more red orange tend to be females. And so from some of the research that we've read, it shows that the female crabs will put more effort into producing eggs than they will into molting, which results in a darker color. And each female crab can produce up to almost 200,000 eggs per year. So they have high rates of reproduction. July 19th is the first day where evidence was found in the state of Alaska of European green crabs. And so as a community, we've created European Green Crab Awareness Day, which we bring educational materials. Last year, we cooked some crabs and brought it all to our city center where people from the community could come in and get t-shirts, flyers, molt walk survey sheets. And this is just a way to spread the word and keep the community involved with the efforts that we're putting forth. Several other communities in Southeast Alaska have also created an opportunity with this day in their communities where they can create more awareness for the everyday citizen. So this is a all years recap. If you look at the top graph, the kind of faint dotted blue line was the hand removal from the salt chuck. And so if we exclude that, 2023 had much higher rates of catch in the areas that we had been trapping than 2024, which is a good sign. And so the take home is that effort, funding, and management is working, but it has to continue. There's areas on the east coast of Canada where left unmanaged eelgrass beds went and reduced up to 90%, which have since recovered since management was put in place. And so as Department of Fish and Wildlife, we are just working as hard as we can to reduce the population as much as possible. I spent the last 6 years teaching science at Metlakatla High School, so involving students has been something that I've been trying to emphasize. Ketchikan High School's Ocean Bulls team came over. Their main research topic was European green crabs. So we were able to have them over, get some hands-on experience with trapping, data collection, and the management efforts that are being put forth in our community, which helped them to get first in state on their state paper. I also work closely with the woodshop teacher at Metlakatla High School. And this year, Todd Gray was nice enough to send me his plans for his crab slab design, which is kind of a passive trap, which allows organisms to move freely in and out. And the woodshop class was able to build a whole bunch of these, and I was able to get them out into the field to deploy them and then check them on multiple occasions. And they're super excited to get some hands-on experience, and many of these students actually have come up to me since then and want to do internships in the summer helping remove green crabs.
Just a couple minutes left.
Okay, so some of the concerns that we have in Southeast Alaska, there's a website called shorezone.org, which has a layer that shows all the habitat that is susceptible to green crab invasion. And as you can see, southern Southeast is very green and conducive to habitat that green crabs like. And so being that in 2 years, these crabs are able to travel 130 miles north, it's been 2 years since we've had them. And so looking forward, it's going to take a lot of effort by Southeast Alaska residents to identify. And this is the same map on the right where it's the habitat, and on the left, all the yellow pinpoints are confirmed green crab carapace or molts that have been sent into the Alaska Department of Fish and Wildlife. So far, there's just been 2 different spots where the live crabs have been trapped, but there is evidence in other areas. What's next for us? In December, we wrote a research proposal to the BIA for continued funding to do more research. And so we were fortunate enough to get funding to do telemetry research to see where these crabs are moving on a daily basis, and also to see what the diet of them is by testing their genetic stomach contents. And just a big shout out to all of our fisheries technicians, all the names on the right. They have done such an awesome job in these efforts, and it wouldn't be possible with all these boots on the ground helping on a daily basis. So thank you very much.